Ô, Nando, tipo,
Bom dia, Naná.
não estamos te escutando, mas se esse cigarro é legal, não tem problema fumar. Está em ambiente privado, se não for proibido. Não estamos te escutando, Nando, está com o microfone cortado.
Agora foi?
Oi,
Oi, pessoal, bom dia.
Bom dia.
bom
Bom
dia.
dia.
Eu vou começar então a transmitir a tela aqui pro Zoom e a gente faz os ajustes finais que tiverem. E é isso, a professora Xue ainda não entrou, né?
Não. Thomas, você faz a apresentação da professora Xue, a professora Sophie? Quem faz?
Eu acho que a professora Sophie pode falar, porque ela conhece bem a professora Xue. Ela faz uma apresentação, a gente fala do curso, mas eu acho que a Sophie pode falar, professor.
Eu acho,
É,
né?
mas a professora Xia ainda não está.
Não, não, não está. Ela vai entrar às 9, né? Demora um pouquinho ainda. Demora um pouquinho. Temos 10 minutos ainda.
I will send a message to her.
No, no problem. Our time is 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
9 o'clock from Brazil. We have 10 minutes. There's we could perfectly wait for her.
Já,
Thomas, quando entrar, a professora Sofia apresenta,
Tá.
mas você dá umas boas-vindas antes, fala assim, professor Xue,
hum,
bem-vindo ao curso tal, e passa para a professora Sophie, que apresenta ela, pode ser?
Combinado, professor.
Que ela
Então,
entrar.
como, né, para ela.
É. Naná, tá tudo bem lá no Zoom?
Estou fazendo o teste agora.
Ah, tá.
já mandei uma mensagem para a professora Xia, mas ainda não recebi nada.
Não, ela entra às 9, sem problemas. É às 9
Oh,
horário.
ok, ok.
We have kind of 10 minutes.
Ela vai entrar agora.
Ah, sim. É, 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 Kaique, tudo certo aí? Professor Thomas, por segurança, já estamos ao vivo no YouTube.
Tá bem, professor.
Então, se não der lá.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, Professor Xue.
Hi, hi.
Professor Shui, here we are with Professor Thomas Law. We have already met him in Beijing.
Yes.
Professor Su, that you know, and Professor Hector, that is professor in Beijing, in Beijing Culture University, Professor Hector. And Professor Julio Cesar Suzuki is not professor of geography. We are all waiting for you. We are having the transmission at Zoom, on Zoom. And Professor Thomas Lau and Professor Sophie, we are already live and on Zoom with our students. So Professor Thomas Lau will make a presentation, Professor Sophie a presentation of you. And I'm very, very glad to have you here. It's an honor for all of us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Professor Xue, it's a great honor to have you with us today. This is a course of the University of São Paulo called ProLAN, that is the integration between Latin American countries. And our coordinator, our professor, is Professor Julio Cesar Suzuki. He's a great specialist in the Latin American studies. And also with Professor Julio, we have Professor Victor, that is coordinating this course between ProLAN and China. So this is our first course regarding the studies related to China. And also I want to thank Professor Sophie for her help and her aid in our course, because she invited many qualified professors also to integrate this special course for our students in the University of São Paulo. And our students of the University of São Paulo, they are masters and also PhD candidates. So they can be from many universities. It could be a background of history, a background of geography, a background of law, a background of economics. So we have this diverse world of students that knows a lot of many things. And of course, it will be a pleasure to hear you here in our course. I will just now pass the word to Sophie to do this introduction about your CV or curriculum. And thank you very much in behalf of the University of São Paulo, in behalf of Professor Julio, Victor, and I myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to make the introduction, a brief introduction of my colleague, Ms. Xue Yuan. Okay, the first cultural note is that, as you know, in China, we mention our family names first. So her name is Xue Yuan. We don't call her Professor Yuan, we call her Professor Xue. That's the first cultural note. And Xue Yuan is from the law school of the University of International Business and Economics. We also have another colleague from the same university. So for short, we call it UIBE. That is the initials of our university. This university is in Beijing, by the way, and specializes in economics and finance and international law, etc. I will let this part of introduction for my colleague, Professor Xue Yuan, to do it for herself. And Ms. Xue and I, we have been, friends for many years and colleagues. We went on the Fulbright visiting scholar trip together in New York. And we even lived not far from each other, about 3 minutes walk. So we really have been friends for many years. And Ms. Xue, our Professor Xue, is a well-known scholar in her field. I will let her introduce her field in greater detail when the floor is hers. So without much ado, and I will give the floor to Professor Xue. Dear friend and colleague, Professor Xue, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Professor Zhu, for the introduction. I think actually I'm specialized in international law, and my main academic interests concentrate on like international dispute resolution. Yeah, international commercial law and private international law, or we call it law conflicts. Yeah. So today I think just give the students a general introduction of our legal system. So I may share the screen with my PPT. So could you see it? Could you see the PPT?
Yes, we see it perfectly, Professor.
Yes, we can see the PPT.
Hi, everybody. Could you see the PPT? Okay, fine. So the Chinese legal system, I think there's 3 parts. First is legislative system, is that I just want to introduce that how our laws viewed from the legislative organs, how they enact the laws. Different state organs are responsible for different parts of the laws. And second is the classification of legislation, is that I just want to classify the laws, for example, like the Constitution and civil and commercial laws, etc. And third part is that I just give you an introduction of our mainly the court system. That's three parts I want to talk about. And the first one is a legislative system. And that is that I think as you know, China is also a civil law country, so it's mainly statutes, and the highest level definitely is the constitution, and it's drafted by the People's Congress and will amended by the People's Congress, and then the laws, and next is administrative regulations. Laws is also drafted and amended by the People's Congress, and the administrative regulations is drafted by the State Council, and also the local regulations, autonomous regulations and the special regulations drafted by the local People's Congress and etc. And also rules is the generally drafted by the State Department. So then we go into the details. And we mainly talk, as you know, the Constitution we already said is drafted by the Congress, People's Congress, and amended by it. So we go into details concerning the laws. And if you could not hear me, just remind me at any time. Yeah, the laws, you know that the National People's Congress have the power to enact and amend all kinds of laws, like the criminal law and civil law, and we see like the fundamental laws governing state organs and other fundamental laws. And then the Standing Committee of National People's Congress, as you know, that the National People's Congress, it's made up by the representatives of the people. So it's could not have meetings all day long. So there's a standing committee of the National People's Congress. So it also has the power to enact and amend laws, but except the basic laws. So besides except the basic law, more fundamental laws, other laws enacted and amended by the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. And we also have that our legislation law prescribe that only the following matters can only be enacted as laws. So they are not like, for example, the state's sovereignty. You can see the mostly are the very important matters concerning the states, and also the organizations concerning various levels of People's Congress. As you know that we have the states, right? We have the province, we have the cities, and so different administrative organs, administrative area have their own levels of People's Congress. And also like we got also like the ethnic regional autonomy. So there's also such kinds of laws, and also like the crime and criminal punishment. And another very important thing, as you have said, that it's deprivation of political rights of citizens, and compulsory measures and penalties that restrict personal liberty. As you know, it's all very important, right? Very important human rights. So such kinds of law concerning the human rights can only be enacted as laws. And also like the taxation, you know, it's also very fundamental for the state. And also like if you kind of like so actually is that private assets, private property is very important. So the expropriation and the requisition of actually of private property must be prescribed by the laws. And also like the civil law in basic fundamental economic system, and like the litigation and other procedure system. And yeah, such you can see all of this are very important to the states. So we see that it can only be prescribed as a laws. And it also said that in addition to like the enactment of laws, the standing committee also responsible for the interpretation of a law. Yeah, it's they just need as some specific meanings of the provisions need for the clarifications, and also like some new situation arise. So after the enactment of the law, and it's very important for the clarification of rationale under the law's application. So the standing committee actually have the power to give, we say like give an interpretation of law. And then later we also will talking about like judicial interpretation of laws. So it's different from the interpretation of laws from the standing committee of the National People's Congress. So it's the judicial interpretation generally concerning how it's issued by the Supreme Court of the so it's just help the courts to know how to apply the laws when they faced with cases. So it's kind of different from the standing committee's interpretation. And also, it also further prescribes that legislative interpretation issued by standing committee, it have the same force as the law. So when you someone may ask what kind of force the legislative interpretation issued by the standing committee, then we'll, it very clearly stated that it has the same force as the law. But actually the standing committee issue the legislative interpretation is not a very common or regular thing. Generally, they maybe give some legislative interpretations concerning the civil law, or maybe concerning some specific laws, but it's not often happens things. Generally, in the regular life, we see many judicial interpretation of laws, and it's also kind of like we're quite used to that. Whenever a new act, a new law is enacted or a law is amended, we are just waiting for the judicial interpretation by the Supreme Court. So then we know actually how such new laws or the amended laws, how they will be applied concerning the cases. And then the next level is administrative regulations. Such administrative regulation is like, you know that it's a third level, right? The first is the constitution, the second level is law. So the state council, when they enact administrative regulations, they could not against the constitution and the law. So they must in accordance with the constitution and the law. And they say that what kinds of matters they can prescribe concerning the administrative law, administrative regulations. So it's like generally the matters that needs purpose for implementing a law, and also like for the state council to use their administrative power to how they should use their administrative power, generally such kinds of things. And also it's like, for example, as you know that maybe we'll later tell about it, is that, as you know, we actually, by now, we do not have a commercial mediation law. So we now think we should explore such possibility. So generally, if we do not have a law, we'll try that. Firstly, we'll have a administrative regulation. And when the time comes, we think, well, it's fine. After we have enact and administrative regulation, for example, now we are drafting the commercial mediation regulation. So when they come into force, enter into force, and when they kind of like put into practice, then we'll find out how it's working on, whether it's work well, is there anything need to improve, and then for several years, we think, well, it's time we can enact the laws concerning commercial mediation. Then we'll enact commercial mediation law. So some laws, before it is enacted, first we will have an administrative regulation. So that's administrative regulation. And then concerning the local regulation, etc., such things, is that as you know that we have various levels of People's Congress. So it's have a People's Congress of province, of autonomous region, or municipality directly under the central government, and the standing committee thereof, especially the municipality directly under the central government. Actually, now we got 4. As you know, it's Beijing, Shanghai, Tianjin, and Chongqing. We now have 4 municipalities directly under the central government. And the People's Congress and the Standing Committee there, they will enact local regulations. So as you know, it's the 4th level. So there should be according to the first 3 levels. So here, like what kinds of regulations they can prescribe is like generally concerning maybe they say that the People's Congress of Cities with District and their standing committee, they can formulate local regulations concerning like they can talk regulate concerning like urban and rural constructions in the administration, ecological civilization development, historical and cultural protection, in grassroots governments. And it's generally, I mean, it's remained in their area, not it's remain in their area and only concerning their local problems. Yeah, such kinds of thing. And they also like they can enact things like just like the state council, they what the matters they can prescribe as they can enact is for the purpose of implementing a law or administrative regulations, and also for some local concerns, such kind of thing they can enact a local regulation. And also a People's Congress of Autonomous Ethnic Regions have the power to enact autonomous regulations according to the political, economic, and cultural characteristics of the ethnic minority groups in the region. For example, concerning the age of the marriage. For example, in the civil code, we prescribe that the man should come to 22, and then they are qualified to get married. And the women, they need to come to the age of 20. Then they are qualified to get married. But for the autonomous ethnic region, concerning the cultures and of the ethnic minority, the age of marriage may be changed according to their culture. Yeah, so such a kind of autonomous ethnic regions, they are authorized to do such kinds of regulations according to their political, economic, and cultural characteristics. And also the last level, the lowest level is the rules. Rules is like by the ministries and commissions of the State Council, and also People's Bank of China, the National Audit Office, and other authorities. So they can enact administrative rules within the scope of their respective authorities. Yeah, that's the lowest level. And also People's Government of Provinces, autonomous regions, municipalities, and they can also enact such kinds of administrative rules. Mainly for implementing laws, administrative regulations, and local regulations, and things that within the specific scope of their administrative region. So that's a level, we call it the different levels of laws, and which state organs have the right to enact such kinds of laws. Yeah, so that's a first part. And second part, we're talking about the classification of legislation. Actually, we can class our laws into 7 parts. First is constitution and related laws, and second is civil and commercial laws. Third is administrative laws, and fourth is economic laws, fifth is social laws, and sixth is criminal laws. And the final part is litigation and other procedure laws. And so firstly, constitution and the related laws. Constitution, as you know, that it's I think every country's constitution maybe just have the similar contents, like prescribes fundamental systems, and also the fundamental rights and obligations of the citizens, and also like the organization powers and activities of state institutions. So constitution laws and other related laws, like the most important, the highest level is constitution, and then the legislation law. Legislation actually is the first part we're talking about. It's just prescribe that what kinds of organ can enact what level of laws. Yeah, and also like the national flag law, national anthem law, and the national emblem laws. This all related laws relating to the Constitution. Yeah, this is the first part. And the second part is that the civil and commercial laws. As you know that China and also a lot of civil law countries, actually, they do not have both at the same time, have civil code and commercial code. And in China, we only have civil code. And concerning the commercial activities, it's like we will enact separate laws. So it's like in civil law area, we got the civil code. And for commercial law area, it's generally like we got the company law, securities law, maritime law, commercial bank law, etc. Yeah, it's like the civil code plus the commercial areas separate laws. Yeah, and administrative laws, as you know, that it's concerning the administrative activities, yeah, of the state administrative organs. So it's like generally it's like the administrative licensing law, administrative penalty law, administrative reconsideration law, and the administrative compulsory law, environmental protection laws. And it's mainly about state and administrative organs and their administrative activities and administrative management, such kinds of things. Yeah, it's not in contrast with the commercial law, civil and commercial, as you know, that it's just between the citizens and the legal persons at an equal level. In the administrative law, it's kind of like the administrative organs concerning dealing with individuals, such kinds of things. So there need a lot of protections and a lot of the individuals and a lot of restrictions concerning the administrative organs. Also, like the economic law. Economic law is like just concerning the social and economic relations. Yeah, it's not like the private activities. It's just from the perspective of the overall interest of society. So what kind of law belong to the economic law? It's like the budget law, law on the People's Bank of China, anti-monopoly, anti-unfair competition, on consumer rights protection, and product quality, tax collection and administration. Such kinds of laws will, you can see that it's also different from the civil and the commercial law, right? Because they are not dealing with the private activities or individuals. They're just from the overall interest of society, dealing with economic activities from the perspective of the society. Yeah. And also the social law. Social law is kind of like to protect the legitimate rights and the interests of workers and the vulnerable groups and maintain social equity. So such as labor law, the social insurance law, law on the protection of minors, women's and also women, and also protect the persons with disabilities, and also like the occupational disease prevention and control. Such kinds of laws because it's social law. So it's their aim, their concentration is on protection of the legitimate rights and the interests of workers and vulnerable groups. Yeah. And also it's there's a criminal laws. Criminal laws that it's describe what constitute crime and what penalty imposed for the criminal behavior. So as you know, we have the criminal law, right? It's this classification is a criminal laws. And also the last part is litigation. The litigation and the other procedure laws. Litigation is like, as you know, that, and other procedure laws is like, litigation law is mainly concerning the activities, right, in the courts. And also like the other procedures, for example, the arbitration and mediation. So we got such kind of concerning the court activities, they will judge criminal case, right? In administrative case and civil case. So they're responding procedure laws, like the criminal procedure law, civil procedure law, and administrative procedure law. And also concerning, we call it alternative dispute resolution, like the arbitration and mediation, we got such kinds of laws. But pay attention that we have just explained that we do not have commercial mediation law. Here what we got is people's mediation laws. What is such kinds of law? Such kinds of law is like, you can imagine that it's just concerning like if you have a dispute in the community. So the community will help you to resolve the disputes. That's what the people's mediation law concern. Yeah, it's not for the commercial mediation, not like the corporations, they got disputes, they want to go to mediation. It's not prescribed by the people's mediation law. Yeah, because it's mainly they're not commercial mediation. then that's the second part. And then we go to the third part. The third part is that judicial system. Judicial system is like, firstly, we need to know that what our courts do. The courts mainly their function is firstly, they are judicial organs of the state, and they generally trying criminal cases, civil cases, and administrative cases, and also other cases prescribed by the laws. And so by trying such cases, they publish criminals, safeguard innocent people, resolve civil and administrative disputes, protects the legitimate rights in the interest of individuals and organizations. Also, they got to supervise administrative organs when they exercise of their duties. If they exercise their duties in accordance with the laws. Also, they maintain the national security and social order, social fairness and justice, and also the unity, dignity, and authority of the national legal system, mainly by trying cases. Yeah, mainly three kinds of cases: criminal cases, civil cases, and administrative cases. And you know that also the different levels of courts: the Supreme People's Court and People's Court at various local levels, and the Special People's Court. Firstly, we'll discuss the Supreme People's Court. As you know, it's the highest judicial organ, and its main function is that to supervise the judicial work of People's Court at various levels, and also the different levels, their relation is that the higher level will supervise the lower level. Yeah. And also, like what the Supreme Court generally will do, they generally what they generally do is that they did trying the cases of first instance, but it's not many, actually quite a few cases of first instance. And they also like they're mainly dealing with cases of appeals, and also they will deal with the cases like death penalties cases. For all the death penalty cases should be submitted to the Supreme People's Court for approval. Yeah, and they and their fundamental function is also like to issue the judicial interpretations concerning the application of laws. That's a very important function, and also their function is like issuing guiding cases. As we have before mentioned, that the judicial interpretation is quite important, and we are quite used to that, as we have already mentioned that whenever a new law enacted or a law was amended, we're just waiting for the judicial interpretation of such laws. Then we will know, because a law or in China generally, they do not have quite many articles, and we if we want to know how they applied in the practice, we need to find out from the interpretation of by the Supreme People's Court. For example, our arbitration law have just amended. Then we are now waiting for the judicial interpretation by the Supreme People's Court concerning this amended arbitration law. And also, like the civil procedure law has been amended in 2023, and now we are still waiting for the judicial interpretation of the Supreme People's Court. And so it's a very important function of the Supreme People's Court. So the Supreme People's Court, actually their most important function now lies in trying cases. Yeah, they are lying how to supervise the lower courts and give their guidance, and also give judicial interpretations concerning the laws. And also they issue the guiding cases. It's also very, very important. Although we call it like guiding cases, but actually it's have the same force as compared with common law country, the precedent. Yeah, it's just like precedent. So actually here, if you go to say the Supreme People's Court web, they will have a case database. The case database now they have got around 4,000 cases covering like the criminal cases, civil cases, and administrative cases. In such kinds, all such cases, they got like the same. They're just the same as a precedent. It means that the lower court, when they trying cases, they need to firstly to look up the case database in the Supreme People's Court web and find whether they're similar case. If they're similar case, they need to once they trying the case, their rule of they need to bind by the cases, the similar cases in the case database. Yeah, so we can just call it like precedent, like the common law country. And also it's very interesting that as you know that recently the Supreme Court has found out maybe as you know that they also trying cases, but like the cases of appeals is too much for them. It's quite a heavy burden. So they just say that for the intermediate court that we'll mention later, the intermediate court, all the cases, their dispute amounts below the 5 billion is the case of first instance. The dispute amount is below 5 billion will be tried by the intermediate court. Intermediate court, there the next level is a higher court. So by such kinds of dealing such kinds of when they give such kinds of guidance, saying that the intermediate court judging trying all the cases below the 5 billion RMB. So then the higher court will have quite few case of first instance. Then the Supreme People's Court will even have fewer appealing cases from the higher court. So the Supreme People's Court can mainly concentrate on supervising and guiding the lower level courts instead of got heavy burdens of trying cases itself. Yeah, and then the People's Court at various local level is like, as you know, that we can classify it into like they got higher People's Court, intermediate People's Court, and the primary People's Court. So for the then the higher court now there are actually many higher court. The higher court is that like there are higher courts of province, of autonomous regions, and of municipality directly under the general government. Yeah, so I mean in Beijing we got higher court, right? Tianjin, Shanghai, and Chongqing, they all got higher courts. And what higher courts do, what kinds of cases they trying is like they try cases of first instance, and also they will try some appealing case, right, from the intermediate court, and also the retrial cases concerning the judicial supervisions, and also the death penalty cases submitted by intermediate courts for review. But we need to stress is that all the death penalty cases must finally submitted to the Supreme People's Court for approval. Yeah. And the intermediate court is like we got many intermediate court, much more than the higher court, right? Intermediate courts of municipality directly under the judicial of province, autonomous region, and also they got established under the municipalities directly under the general government in the autonomous prefectures and in prefecture of a province autonomous region. For example, in Beijing, we got quite a few intermediate people's court. We got the first intermediate court, second, third, fourth. For the first intermediate court, second and third, they are actually governing the appealing cases from the different district. For example, like for the third intermediate courts, they will dealing with cases from, for example, from Chaoyang district, Tongzhou district, such kind of thing. We got several districts in Beijing, so all the three intermediate court, they each dealing with several districts. The fourth intermediate People's Court is quite special. It's not like dealing with certain cases from certain district. It's mainly concentrating cases of involving foreign related factors. For example, like the civil commercial cases relating to foreign factors, and also the administrative cases relating to foreign related factors. And all the judicial review concerning the arbitration cases is handled by the fourth intermediate court, People's Court in Beijing. So in the in the also like in the big cities, for example, in Guangzhou, it's also have 2 intermediate people's courts. So it's like in some big cities, more than 1 intermediate people's courts. And then for intermediate cases, as we have mentioned, that they are dealing a lot of cases of first instance, and also like they were dealing with the appealing cases from the primary people's courts. So, for example, in Beijing, generally for intermediate courts, we will handle the cases of the first instance is that the amount should generally above 100 million RMB and below 5 billion RMB. All these cases of first instance is handled by the intermediate people's court. And then is a primary people's court. Primary people's court, like you know that they are courts of the established in the counties and autonomous counties, in the cities, not divided into district, and also the municipal districts. For example, in Beijing, in each municipal district, they got such a primary people's court. Yeah. And also like, so a primary people's court adjudicate cases of first instance, yeah. And there are also special people's court concerning military courts, maritime courts, intellectual property courts, and financial courts. For example, in Beijing, they have the intellectual property courts and the financial courts. And such kinds of court actually is as an intermediate level courts. Also, they got like the Beijing Internet Court. This court is actually a primary, we call it primary people's court. So they, if they have cases, appealing cases, then go to the fourth intermediate court of Beijing. Yeah. And it's also a thing is that concerning intellectual property courts, for example, in Beijing, intellectual property courts, several cases, they are not, they kind of like certain intellectual property cases tried by the intellectual property courts. When they are being appealed, they're not to go to the higher court. They directly go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court have an intellectual property tribunal. Yeah, they especially dealing with certain appealing intellectual property cases from the intellectual property court of Beijing. In Beijing. So it's a very specific appealing system. Yeah. And for the Supreme People's Court, as you know, that they responsible and report work to the National People's Congress. Yeah, and the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. So it's like the court is judicial part of the state. Their connection with legislature is that they need to be responsible and report work to the National People's Congress. And different level of the courts are responsible reporting their work to the local People's Congress. to the corresponding level and their standing committee. So the People's Congress at all levels and standing committee. Also, very special is that there's a People's Procuratorate. It's concerning the court system. It's another separate system. So it's like they have a corresponding levels like the courts. They got the Supreme People's Procuratorate and at various local levels, and also like have special procuratorates like the military procuratorates. And what can the work, what kind of function the procuratorates have? They exercise such kinds of function. First is like in investigating criminal cases and examining criminal cases and approving the arrest or decide whether to arrest criminal suspects and examining criminal cases. And they play as a public prosecutions, whether to initiate public prosecutions. And that's mainly concerning the criminal cases. They just say like the police department, they are responding for the initial investigating, and then they collect the evidence, then submit it to the procurators. And if the procurators think, well, the evidence is enough, then they will initiate the public prosecution. Yeah. So it's basically concerning the criminal cases. That's one important function of the procuratorate. And the second important function is that to issue the public interest litigation. For example, like the environmental pollution cases, they will act as a plaintiff for protect the public interest. And also like they got another, the third very important function is the supervision. They have they supervise the litigation and also the like supervise the enforcement of judgment, and also they're supervise law enforcement activity of prison and detention houses. So the procuratorate mainly have three functions concerning the initiate public prosecutions concerning the criminal cases, and second is play as a plaintiff to fighting the public interest litigations like environmental pollution, and also the third function is supervision over litigations and the laws enforcement, etc. So basically, it's all the parts I want to introduce to you. Mainly three parts: the litigation system, the classification of the laws, and also the judicial system. Now it's my introduction is just like this. So I very welcome the questions. Yeah.
Okay, let me just see everyone here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Shui, for this outstanding speech for us. I have here a lot of questions from our students, and they are on the other platform. For myself, I'd like so much this introduction. I have a lot of similarities between the judicial and the legal system of China and of the standard Latin America, but there are a few doubts or a few different perspectives that for us are more interesting, because we don't know that if it's a different way of thinking the law, of a different way of thinking the relation among the powers of the state. We have some questions. I'd like to know, or really like to know, a student of ours. I don't have he or her name now. We'd like to know something that for us is kind of fundamental, because I will have another question in this way, more specific, but in general, we would like to know, if you're glad to tell us, Professor Xue, what's the importance of the case law or the judicial precedent in the Chinese legal system? We are more to for us, in our point of view, more to the Latin way, that the precedent has less value, or more to the North American and Anglo-Saxonic way, when the precedent is really more important, sometimes more important than, or equivalent with the law. What's the importance in China of the precedent, more specifically, if you can tell us?
As you know that China is a civil law country. Also, generally we do not have a case law, right? So, but recently nowadays, I mean, the Supreme Court, they just issued guiding cases, as I have mentioned, and they have, as I have also mentioned, that in the Supreme Court's web, they got a case database. In such kinds of case database, they got nowadays they got more than 4,000 cases. So actually, I mean, such kinds of cases kinds of similar like precedents. Yeah, it's as is required, as I have mentioned, that the lower courts, when they trying cases, they need to first go to such case database to find out whether there are any similar case. Like with a case they are just trying. If it is a similar case, they need to follow the judgment of the guiding cases or the cases in the database. I mean, in the cases database, there are two kinds of cases. One is a guiding case. One type is guiding case. Another type is called like, we see like the reference, for your reference, for the reference case or such kind of thing. It's I mean, it's kind of like adopted by the Supreme Court, and when they collecting from different level of the courts. Yeah, but once they came into this database, they all became, the cases have like similar to the precedents. But as you know that, I think that it's quite different with the Anglo-Saxon traditions, that we're not a case law country. So we are not depend on these cases. So such kinds of cases, mainly their function is to guide the lower courts how they should trying the similar cases. Yeah, but it's not like the Anglo-Saxon, for example, the contract law, the tort law, such kind of things. They do not have statutes. They are made up by the cases law. right? Case law. It's so the president, the status of the president in the common law tree, I think is still quite different from the civil country, because there, maybe I think the fundamental structure of their legal system is mainly maybe most important parts are case law, right? But our civil law country, we are not dependent on all these cases. We remain as a, we are mainly relied on statute law, right? So the such kinds of cases in the Supreme Court case database, they got such kinds of, I mean, just as like the precedent is mean that if the lower courts, when they trying the cases, when they trying the similar cases, they should follow the judgment of the cases in the Supreme Court case database. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me just talk in Portuguese just a little bit, just to summarize for our students. Para nós, eu acho que ficou bem claro que é o sistema de civil law, para quem é do direito vai conhecer, muito parecido com o Brasil, né? Você tem o guiding case, que são a jurisprudência mais obrigatória, que seria aqui algo próximo, né, a jurisprudência do Supremo Tribunal Federal, súmulas vinculantes e tal, e você tem um database, você tem a jurisprudência oficial dos tribunais, que eles acabam eles mesmos seguintes, mas não é como nos Estados Unidos, ou no sistema anglo-saxão, que já que a gente está no sistema civil law, tanto na China quanto no Brasil. Thank you very much, Professor Xue. I will ask another question in the same way, but more specifically. It's just a question of mine, but I think that we can go deeper in this subject, because for us here in Latin America I don't know if I understand it well, it's a very, very interesting idea just to solve our problems now with a dispute of problems among the powers of the state, or more specifically from the legislative and the judicial powers of the state. If I understand well, in China we have this legislative interpretation system, which is, if I understand well, a committee inside the Congress, which make an interpretation, hard interpretation of its proper laws. And if I understand, the Congress can make can interpret the law without the judge or before the judge. So the Congress doesn't need the intervention of the judicial system. So I don't understand how this committee works, and if you have, for example, law specialists inside the Congress, or is the whole Congress, and they can, which I think it's very intelligent, it's very clever, to have a committee inside the Congress, just to the Congress and the legislative power say what we say, that is the mens legislatory, the will of the legislation. How does it work more specifically? It's this legislative interpretation system, and more specifically, it is a permanent committee inside the Congress. How does it work? It's I think it's genial, this kind of idea. Can you explain a little bit more for us?
I mean, as you know that we got such kind of thing like, you know, we got the People's Congress, as I have explained that it's that's the representative of people. They will maybe hold annual meetings. So regular work is actually conducted by the Standing Committee of the People's Congress. If you go to the People's Congress website, you'll find out that under the People's Congress, they got a lot of committees. They are standing committees. Yeah, these people they are regular working under the People's Congress. For example, we got a committee, we call it like Constitution and Other Law Committee. Such kind of committee will mainly responsible for the actually the drafting and amendment of the laws, and then they will submit it to the standing committee for actually for law to enact generally or amended. Generally, we need to go to, we call it, need to 3 times. The first draft, then they submitted to the standing committee, and then they got opinions and suggestions and go back, they will improve it, and then they go, second time they go to the standing committee, then they will get it. They will have it like amended and according to the suggestions, and then they have got the third draft. Then they go to the standing committee. Then then they generally after the after 3 drafts, then they will generally approve it. As you mentioned, the interpretation of laws, the function is responsible by the Standing Committee of the People's Congress. And as we have said that they need to, basically it's one's laws need to be clarified. The Standing Committee will issue the interpretation of laws, and such kinds of may be required. Required by the State Council and the ministries and other things. The State Council and the Supreme Court and the Supreme prosecutions and other. Also like by the standing and also for the special committees of the National People's Congress, like I have mentioned, like the Special Committee of the Laws and the Constitution, they all have the power to ask the Standing Committee to give the interpretation of laws. And also like say that the Standing Committee of the province, they also have the power to ask for the interpretation of laws by the Standing Committee. And Standing Committee, then they will have the working body. So they to draft the legislative interpretations. And then they will go to the meeting, and the draft of the legislative interpretation. After they go through the meetings, then they will they need such kinds of meetings. They need votes, and after they think the draft is improved, is okay, it's fine, then they will vote, and need to more than half votes, yeah, then they will approve such approve such legislative interpretation, and then they will issue it. But as I have mentioned, that such kinds of legislative interpretation actually is quite few. Yeah, we mainly in our regular life we are faced mainly with judicial interpretation by the courts. Yeah, the standing committee, they did give legislative interpretation, but quite few, and then they need to go through very strict procedures. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me summarize in Portuguese.
Okay.
Sorry, but it's just
Yeah.
Então, o sistema de interpretação legislativa funciona mais ou menos o que a Corte Legislativa, Comissão de Justiça, né? Mas com mais autonomia, só que como ela esclareceu aqui para nós algumas vezes, se usa menos, não se usa muito esse comitê interno e se usa mais a interpretação judicial. I have another question here in WhatsApp, but I will ask our professors here if they have some question for Professor Xue. Thomas, Professor Sophie.
Yes, Professor Victor. Professor Xue, congratulations for your class. I also heard about the courts. In China, you said we have the Beijing Internet Court. And one of my questions would be regarding, for example, nowadays we have this big doubt of who is the ownership of copyright for AI generated content or artwork. Means that we don't know if the AI that is doing the art, who has the ownership of this art? Is it the one that did the platform? Is it the human being that is giving the prompts inside this app, DeepSeek, for example? So I want to know if you, in China, if there is any, for example, how is China dealing regarding AI generated content, and how is China deciding the ownership of this copyrights or patents? If it's the Beijing Internet Court that decides this, or which court that will analyze this kind of judicial matters? I know it's really hard. I think it's not so easy because it's very new, this kind of topic in the whole world, not only in China, but probably in the whole world.
Yes, I think it's firstly, I need to say that I'm not quite familiar with such kind of question because it's not in my research area. But as far as I understand that, maybe I think your such kind of question, I just give a general idea is that for the courts, yeah, they every day they are dealing with new issues, not prescribed by laws. So generally, they need to, when they confront with such cases, they will, they will look around to say whether other countries, in other countries, how they're dealing with such cases. And they will collect the experiences from other countries, and then they will maybe give the judgment to the specific cases. And then if the cases, there's more and more concerning this issue, then they will, maybe it's time for the state council to give an administrative regulation. And then if they think, well, the time is come for they to enact laws, then they will enact laws. So it's just a kind of system like when they confront with new problems, generally the court will face such kind of new problem and try to deal with it in specific cases. If in China they do not confront with such question, they will look around to see whether other countries got such kinds of experiences, whether they have such kinds of judgments. Yeah, and then later they will go to the legislation. Yeah, like such kinds of steps.
And Professor Xue, is there also, you talk about many special courts that China has, financial courts, Beijing Internet Court. Do they have the Belt and Road courts in China?
You mean which court?
Like Belt and Road, the one that deals with the investments through the program of the BRI, it's Belt and Road Initiative.
Such kinds of, you mean the investor and the home state. There are such kinds of cases as you know that, firstly, such kinds of disputes generally resolved by arbitration. Like, you know, the exit, right? Yes. They generally go to exit, or they go to ICC, they go to SCC, or they go to the permanent court or something for such. So mainly they dealing with such kinds of thing in arbitration, according to the BITs. And then actually in China, the arbitration institution also issue such kinds of rules concerning the BIT disputes, concerning the investor and the home state disputes. And as you know that we recently we got such kind of law side the foreign state immunity law. We now enter into force. Before that, actually we are saying that no other state could be regarded as defendant in Chinese courts. So only after this law enter into force, we are talking about whether we now, as this law coming into force, then the foreign state can be defended in Chinese courts. Yeah. So, but since the law is quite new, it's just coming to force recently. So as far as I know, there's still no cases in practice, actual cases in courts dealing with defendant as foreign states. Yeah, but here, like in China, if there's a foreigner as an investor, yeah, they have problems with the home state. Such a kind of case actually is not like what you think as BIT cases. It's actually it's like the cases like here in China, it's like administrative cases, because it's generally like the private person or corporation, they are suing local government. It's just such kind of thing. Yes, as you know that the investors, they generally will invest in a certain area, right? In a certain province, a certain city. So if they have such kinds of, actually it's investor concern issues with investor and home state disputes, but the cases you will see is administrative cases. Yeah, they are just suing the local governments. Yeah, so actually we got many cases. As you know, that the courts can try in administrative cases, right? So concerning the China, if China is a home state, it's mainly you will see like on the administrative cases. But if it's a foreign country, like the defendant, then we now actually, as far as I know, we do not have cases yet, because our foreign state immunity law just enter into force. Yeah.
Professor Xue, I have one final question that is regarding the people's mediation law and the difference between the commercial mediation law. You said that nowadays they have the people's mediation law for small cases or cases that they want to decide in a village or something small. Community.
Yeah.
And regarding the commercial mediation law in China, how do they apply it? Because I know that they have CIETAC, that is the big arbitration centers. And I think they have also many steps before going to arbitration, such as mediation and talks, like meetings to decide about the agreement or the conflicting part of the agreement, and before the steps to arbitration. So what is the difference now of the commercial mediation law in China?
I mean, firstly, that mediation, commercial mediation, when we say that concerning the disputes, nowadays we have the opinion that mediation is not the mandatory steps before arbitration, even if the contract has prescribed that firstly you should give negotiation and then what kind of things. But if you just trying directly go to arbitration, it's fine, it's okay. And for the main difference between the people's mediation and the commercial mediation is that for the people's mediation, as you have mentioned, like they are just dealing with the disputes in community or something. So the fundamental thing is that for such kinds of mediation, they do not charging fees. Yeah.
Okay.
They are just mediated for free. But for commercial mediation, actually, as you have mentioned that in CIETAC and in a lot of institutions, they are doing the commercial mediation business, they need to charging fees. So I actually have asked them how they got such kinds of mediation cases. They say that generally that most of the cases, maybe some people, some parties, go directly to them, but most of the cases actually is introduced by the courts. As you know that the courts will, when they dealing with cases, as you know that in China, the court in China, they got a very heavy burden of cases. So they just say that, well, we hope that the mediation will help us to deal with several part of these cases. So they will generally, maybe they will introduce to the parties, say, well, before the case go to the court procedure, do you want to go to mediation? Yeah, if the parties agreeing, then they will refer such cases to the mediation institutions. Yeah, the mediation institutions will help them to go through mediation, and once they reach the settlement, the parties can go to the court to have the judicial recognition of such settlements. And such kinds of judicial recognized settlements have the enforcing, have the binding force. Yeah, they can be directly enforced. Yeah.
Thank you.
Professor Xue, Professor Thomas, we have here another questions, but they are in very general of the system. We have questions about the environment laws and international laws, but I think that we had already a very, very good overview of the legal system of China with Professor Xue. I think it's my way of thinking that the cultural difference implies difference in in the interpretation of law and doing laws, and you learn more about that with Professor Su, Professor Sophie, when she talk for us about the Chinese culture in general. But for us, for me, it was very, very interesting to know about this overview of the legal system. So I think we are truly satisfied with the answers, and obviously with the outstanding class of Professor Xue. And now it's night in China. I promised that 1 hour, 1 hour and a half maximum. So I like to comply with it. So for my part, thank you very much. I think we will join the students there and on the other platform. So I for my part, just in name of PROLAN, in the name of the University of São Paulo, certainly Professor Thomas, in name of Ibrachina, I think we will have a very, very full, grateful thanks to Professor Xue. And I'd like to final words to Professor Sophie, or even if someone more. Professor Sophie, your final words, please, or a question. I don't know. It depends on both of you.
Actually, I'm not a law professional, so I don't think I will raise any professional questions. But I do want to thank Professor Xue for her lecture and for the informative content of her lecture. I want to thank her very much, and thank you for your participants. And if you have further questions, I think you can direct to Professor Xue even after this lecture, because you've got her email, and the students can always keep in contact with her and to ask further questions. So I want to thank you very much also. And that's what I want to say. Thanks.
Well, it's my pleasure and it's my honor to give this lecture, and thanks for the opportunity, and thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Thomas. Final words.
Yeah, I just want to thank once again Professor Xue for also having did the reception for us last year together with Professor Sophie, with a big delegation of Brazilians in Trenterdã. We had an excellent meal with the Peking duck. So I want to thank you, Professor Xue, that you also helped us to take the doubts of many lawyers, judges, high court judges that participated in that lunchtime. So once again, thank you in the name of our institution, Social Cultural Brazilian and China Institute. And also, once again, thank you in the name of the PROLAN program, together with Professor Julio and Professor Victor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I can send to Professor Victor the English version of our legislation law and our courts law. Yeah, since the students are very interested in these two laws. Yeah.
Oh,
yes, please.
The students and us. Please. Will be a great honor, pleasure to have it and can read. Thank you very much.
Actually, it's a Chinese English version, just to have a contrast. If the students are also interested in Chinese, they can also see it, how to translate it into English. Yeah.
Yes, it will be a language exercise also. We have students from language and Mandarin and here to could be interesting also.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much, you all. I see you on platform Zoom from the colleagues and the Zoom platform in a minute. Thank you very much, Professor. Here we are in Brazil for you.
Thank you.
Professor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
O sea, podemos hacer la